Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Now let's start how to draw stipple art. So what's stippling? Stippling is creation of a pattern, mainly by using small dots. So what I'm trying to do here is, as the reference image is put above the top left corner, we are gonna do something same. And to begin with, we'll draw a circle using a pencil. Then have put the horizon and have roughly put the outline of the mountains using the marker itself. But if you are a beginner, I would rather suggest use a pencil, get the shapes right, then erase it. Now what I am trying to do here is basically I am trying to form the outline of the sketch. We'll work on the stippling part later. It involves placing individual dots across the pattern of this entire sketch. Whatever we are gonna do next thing is basically to put dots. We are getting the board shape right. I would rather suggest if you are a beginner, please use a pencil to draw the outline of the board, the hills. Just because I'm familiar with it, I'm doing it as such using the pen. The pen which I'm using here is bit artistic pen, and the size which I'm using right now is F. The materials which can be used for this thing can be of either two type, either a fine point pen or a graphite. I'm using the fine point pen. And one more advantage with this thing is with bit artistic pens is that they are not reliable and won't bleed much ink onto the page, which lets you to create stippling that is precise, crisp and exact. Whereas graphite pencil, the main disadvantage is with smudging. Even though you take all the precautions when you are handling it, even a slight stroke of your palm against the sketch, gone. Whatever effort you have put till now will go off. So I rather prefer fine point pen. As you see, I put the outline of the sun and the rays emerging out from the sun. Now all you need to do here is put parallel lines. What I'm trying to do here, and make sure these two parallel lines have very less gap in between them. The further away the dots, the lighter the area. That's the logic. If you look at it near the horizon where there is a junction between the sun and the lake, I haven't put any dots just to show that there's no such like the light which is usually white in color. So the lower the shade, it would be better to get the effort. And now let's start working on the mountain. And remember the second logic. As I said during the first logic, further away the dots, lighter the area. So opposite of it, closer the dots, darker the shading. So we have to make sure like that if you look at the reference image, the dots are very close to each other in the mountain, whereas when you look at around sun, it's the dots are very further away. They are a bit distant from each other. So the logic is working. The closer the dots are together, the darker the shading is. You might also use a different size pit art pen if you want darker shade, but I would rather say you use the same pen but with less gap between the dots. It's like if you look at the video, it looks like I'm just playing around, but it's very tedious. What you can see there in the mountain across at one end where it creates a shadow, it's basically series of small dots what I'm trying to put there. And make sure that the junction between the shadow and the actual mountain is not that drastic. So what I'm trying to do is make it look gradual. That would give an appeal to the art. As you see, the gradation of light from near to the sun to the farther point from the sun is very clear here in the image. Try to get the same result, if not the same, near same results. Now if you look at the mountain which I am focusing right now here, it's way too dark. It's covered by the other mountain, so it's completely under the shadow of the other mountain. So I'm using B size Pitart pen. You can also use the same pen, but the dots should be way too closer to each other. I switch back to M size Pitart pen. The main thing is to ensure you get the proper effects. As you see, I have covered the area with dots, and the dots are way too dense in the darker mountain. Oh. Then I'm switching back to F size Pit Art pen, working on the farther mountain. Now let's focus on the other mountain. The same thing. Remember guys, it's gonna take a lot of time. You need to have patience. Don't be impatient when you're doing it. It will spoil the fun of it. And one thing make sure is that you don't leave the lines. Stipple art is something which has no lines. It's fine with the board part, but apart from board part, everything else should be stippled. I know I have also done a blunder by making the horizon using the straight line, but it's fine. Since you're a beginner, make sure like you don't leave the traces of the line behind. The resulting image should contain no lines. That's the main motto. Take your own time as you draw. The shades, what I'm trying to put on the mountain, is very important because it suggests forms, shape and contrast of the mountain. Now we'll focus on the shadow part of the boat on the river. Since it's on the river, make sure the lines stay parallel. Ensure closer the dot, the darker the shade you get. So make sure the dot between the space between two dots, sorry, is almost the same. That will give better appeal if the space is uniform throughout the pic, like wherever required. And in terms of technique, I guess this may not sound overly complicated. It's saying dot the paper, but it seems like that's it, just dot the paper. However, there is bit more consideration that it goes into placement of dots. There is consideration that whichever whatever you do using dots, it's not just some 3 4 dots you are trying to put there. That's way a lot number of dots. What I'm doing here is wherever there is a shade, I'm trying to put dots closer to each other. Wherever the dark tonal value is required, and look at the pattern in which I'm stippling. It's parallel on the river. Make sure the dots remain parallel. When is it gonna get over? I'm trying, but it's not coming. Lost a lot of web pending. The main fun of stippling is it takes time. It checks how patient you are. Another theory is that stippling art is not a complete image. There are dots which, like, they're equal dots and viots, so it's completed, the image is completed in an viewer's eyes. When he looks far from the image, the remaining portion is filled by your eyes. That's what the experts say. I'm still working on the shadow part of the boat. Just sketch along with me, it's not that difficult. Main part is in putting the dots after you compare it with the reference image. I'm still not happy with the river. Yeah, we are done with the river. Now let's focus on the clouds part. As you can see, the clouds have unusual shapes, so it doesn't matter that you have to get exactly same thing what's in the reference image. Even if it goes bit here and there, it's completely fine. it's it's taking a lot of time, way too much. And when you are drawing clouds, make sure the space between two dots is not uniform. All I'm trying to do here is trying to create the effects with stippling, which isn't simply matter of how many dots you use. It's also matter of whichever material you're trying to use. But since you're a beginner, it's completely okay. How many dots? If you count, I doubt it would be less, like not less than some 1,000 to 2,000 dots. Take your guess and put it in a comment section below. I guess some 2,500 dots by the end the sketch gets completed. And if you are using a pencil, it's very hard though, because how much ever you tried the stippling, it's not accurate. And getting defined dots properly when you are using a pencil, it's a bit difficult though. I would rather suggest, if you not get any CD marker or pit artistic pen, use your normal dot pen or ball pen. We're almost done with the clouds. I guess the pen are more reliable, and that's the main advantage, that stippling art isn't costly the way the painting is. That's what I love most about stippling art. It doesn't require any more material. All you need to have is one main thing, that is your patience, your time, the endurance to last until your sketch gets over. I'm still working on cloud because I'm not happy it's not come proper. And don't be fuzzy about dots. It should be proper dot. Make sure, take your own time when you're placing the dot. Usually what people do is they start doing it as the way they do when they are sketching. Pressurize at the one point and drag it towards the other. So instead of dot, that becomes a mini line. I'm still working, adding bit more details on the reflection and the shadow of the boat on the river, and make sure to the close proximity of the boat, that is the gap between the junction and the river, it should be a darker tonal value. That's very important thing. Now let's fill in the boat with black color as it is shown in the reference image. I love this process, especially this part, this step of this sketch. It's very easy though. All you need to do is fill in the black color. I'm using M size pit art pen. It's left to you whichever you want. Choose when you are shading the black part, especially the size of the brush doesn't matter. If it's small size, then it's gonna take a lot of time. But if it's large brush, it's easy. The brush size, that is the tip of the bit art pen, determines how quick your art is gonna get done and what sort of effects you get. Now we have to shade this. It's coming really good. I'm just loving this. We are almost done there. Most. That's it. Find a place where you can put your sign and